What's up, YouTube? I'm Mike, and today I'm back with part 2 of the, I think it's called What's It Like to Go to Prison series. What an uplifting fucking topic, right? I just want to warn you, I'm going to try to have all of my usual spunkiness on this video, but dude, my cycle is, I cannot sleep at all. So I am barely propped up on caffeine right now. I think I got 4 hours of sleep, maybe 6 hours of sleep last night, broken in 2 segments. But nevertheless, so when I left you last time, I had just gotten my chain letter in county jail, which means today is the day that I'm going to the big house. And so I had been prepped quite a bit by the guys in the unit for what I was about to experience, what I was about to embark on. The problem is, like, eventually I know that I'm going to be going to a prison camp, to a minimum security facility. That part I'm feeling really good about. Unfortunately, in order to get to the minimum security facility, 100% of inmates go through a classification process at a prison called Shelton in Washington State. And so it's a medium security facility for those who are living there. It's actually part of the facility is classifications, which is completely closed custody, maximum security. And then they have a long-term medium security wing or division of the of that particular unit. So what happens is early in the morning, right after breakfast, when you get your chain letter, you will get the call from the, from someone in the building that it's time for you to roll up all your shit, which means gather up all of your belongings and you take them downstairs to where they will do whatever they're going to do with them. So in my case, I had a bunch of books and tons of books. I had a bunch of stuff in property. My people had been sending me books for 7 months. I think I had 200 fucking books. It was a giant number of books I'd read. And so you have all this property that you have to make arrangements for, whatever clothes you got booked into the facility. Basically, nothing goes with you to prison. So whatever you got booked into county jail with, anything, like, I don't give a shit if you got booked into county and you are very wealthy and you're fucking Rolex and your $10,000 Gator fucking shoes are in there, whatever the fuck you got booked in, that will not go with you to prison. So you got to make arrangements for all of your personal property to get picked up. My personal property, of course, did not get picked up because my family was in Texas and they didn't care about my books and stuff. So nevertheless, they take you downstairs from your county unit that you've been living in, and you go back through a process that's not completely dissimilar from booking, although in my estimation it's substantially worse. So they put me down in this tiny little holding cell. I was sitting down there forever. I was with one other guy for most of the time. I think there were only like a few of us that were leaving from this particular facility. And so we sat in a holding cell until finally the chain bus arrived, or before the chain bus arrived. And so this bus has been making a tour of county jails, picking people up, all who are going to prison on this particular chain. And so you're sitting in this cold cell again, in your normal jail clothes, and then the cops come in and they again strip you naked, and they don't exactly perform a cavity search, but it's the most invasive search that you've had yet. In fact, I think I was made to bend over and cough and spread it in front of like 3 different cops at 3 different times. I don't know why they needed to look at my ass so many fucking times, but again, it's embarrassing, it's degrading, it makes you feel like an animal, it's a terrible, horrible experience. And so there's really just psychologically, there's no way to spin it. It just feels horrific to be treated that way. And then they put you into, I think, some different clothing. I can't remember. It's not terribly relevant. And finally, you get ushered outside into what is kind of like a drive-through inside this big building. And so another thing worth mentioning that I didn't mention in any of the previous videos is in Snohomish County Jail, there is no outdoor rec. So there's something they call outdoor rec, but it's basically just like a completely cinder block room with a tiny little gap at the very top of the wall that's, 30 feet fucking high. And so you can see like a strip of blue sky. Occasionally, I'm trying to get my clock out because I forgot to time this. Occasionally, you might, if you're very lucky, see a bird fly by. And all of the windows in the unit are frosted. So I had been locked inside of a county facility. I had not been outside for 7 consecutive months. And so you step outside and you see the sunlight for the first time in a long time, and you breathe real fresh air for the first time in a long time. And it's pretty eye-opening. It's actually sort of upsetting, really. And so they take you onto this bus that is effectively a school bus, but in the front of the bus, it has literal cages. And there's a couple of them in the back, and they're these like wrought iron metal cages that are bolted down to the floor of the bus. I think there was like a couple other guys that were already on there. And I can't remember how many people there were on there. And so you're chained and shackled together, and whoever you were with in the unit, like the other guy that was in the holding cell, you're shackled to that guy, and the both of you share a seat on this bus. And so I've never been on an airplane. I've heard about how horrible it can be as far as tight quarters and, claustrophobia. Being shackled to some other fucking dude on a bus, definitely 1 out of 10 rating. I would highly not recommend this as a mode of travel. So, but the good news is that now you're actually going to get to go for a ride, and it's like 2 hours, I think, from Snohomish County to Shelton, where the classifications facility is. So then they bring out this guy, and so keep in mind, everybody that's going to prison that day is going to prison. And that could be anywhere from somebody like me who just caught like a really minor Class C felony or 3rd-degree felony to, in this case, a guy who just caught life for murder. And so if you happen to be the guy who caught life for murder, then you are brought in some significant shackles. He may have even had a face covering on, I can't remember. And that is the guy they put inside one of those wrought iron cages. The rest of us were just kind of chained together, sitting freely in the bus seats, although there is like still a cage, like it's separated from where the guards are. But the guards sitting next to this dude's got a shotgun and like riot gear, and this guy's in a fucking cage, and I'm like not even looking in this guy's direction because he was one of the scariest fucking dudes I've ever seen. He looked like he wanted to murder everybody. So off we go. So we take off in the chain bus, and I have a very active imagination, seen lots of movies and shit, and so I'm kind of like sneaking peeks at this guy who's clearly just caught life. And what my brain starts to do is I try to find out, like, is this like some kind of basic nobody who did some scandalous shit and got caught? Or is this guy possibly somebody? Because I've watched too much TV. And so people get busted out. They try to hit these prison transports. So now, like, for like the 2 hours that we're riding, I'm having this ridiculous internal debate inside my head. Like, damn, like, what if this guy's like, Russian mafia, or like, what if this guy is somebody and they like attack the bus and bust this guy out, and like I could technically run free, but like I'm only facing 2 years. And so if you try to escape at any point in this transportation, or at any point that you're in a lockdown facility, you automatically get an automatic extra 5-year sentence. It's so like I'm debating like, if the bus gets hit and I can get out, like, do you run from Mexico, or do you just sit there by the bus, and be like, fuck this shit, man. I'm going to camp for 2 years. I'll just like, I'm not gonna risk it. This is the kind of dumbass shit that's floating around my mind while, I'm chained up, going to Shelton. I think eventually I fell asleep, maybe nodded out a little while. And then, you make a couple turns off the highway, and now you see your future approaching. There is no more sobering experience. Like, I had been to prisons before as a visitor. I had a couple of buddies when I was younger. Actually, two of the guys caught some federal charges running some stupid internet scams, and they caught a couple of years in Fed time. And so I'd seen like the razor wire and the guard towers. Like, I'd been inside one of those facilities, visiting these guys that I knew. And so, which is scary enough, honestly, even if you go in there as a visitor. But when you're going in there and you're starting the process, and for the next 2 years you're going to be in some kind of a facility possibly similar to this, is very, very sobering experience. So you start coming down this road and you see the guard towers and these fucking huge tall chain link fences, and there's razor wire all over the top of the fence, and then at the bottom of the fence there's 2 fences together, and in between them there's like rolls of razor wire stacked on top of it. So it's like, if you get through the one fence, you've got to crawl through 16 rolls of fucking razor wire to climb the other fence to get over more razor wire. All the while there's guys with fucking sniper rifles in all of these guard towers, and that they are just wishing somebody fucking would. You know what I mean? Like, they are dying to take somebody's head off. And so it's like, damn, this shit is, the day has come. This shit is really real. And so by this time, there's probably, I don't know, there's probably 20 of us maybe. I don't know exactly the number. I can't remember. It's not really relevant. But you pull up inside this gate. The gate opens. You go inside. They close the gate. And then you get led up to this little building. And the doors open. And they start leading everybody off the fucking chain bus into this like little, it's just like a room. And there's a couple of cops at some desks. And there's a whole bunch of chairs. And so you're all sitting there in your county shirts, except I think they've been changed out and they say DOJ on them now or DOC, Department of Corrections. And so basically it's another booking process. So you wait until your name is called, and there's this entire intake process where you go from being a county jail resident to a resident of the Washington State Department of Corrections. And so you're watching as all of these other people are going through this process. And again, you're sitting in this room with murderers, rapists, thieves. Like, you're just trying to keep your fucking head down. You're not trying to do anything that would instigate anybody. There's other dudes that are like more scared than me. There's some sniffles going on. You've got like a sack lunch, if I remember correctly, which has got like the worst tuna fish sandwich ever in it, and or maybe it was peanut butter and jelly, some sandwich, and like sun chips or some nasty fucking shit. And as you sit there, and it takes forever. I mean, I was probably sitting there for 2 fucking hours while they process everybody. When it's your turn to get processed, you go up to the counter, they ask you your name, and they do another body check. What they're looking for are any identifying characteristics. So they ask you, do you have any tattoos, moles, birthmarks, anything that stands out, any kind of identifying characteristics. And every tattoo that you have or mark on your body is photographed and logged. And part of the purpose for this is twofold. One, for identification purposes, should you get beaten beyond recognition, or to make sure that you are not modifying your body in any way when you are locked inside of their facility. because obviously prison tattoos are illegal. Now, 98% of them they do nothing about, but it's part of the process. Another thing to be aware of, if you've never committed a crime before and you're really into tattoos, I luckily was not. I had 2 tattoos on my body. You may have seen it. I did them both when I was 16 with a needle and thread and India ink. I have an Ankh, which is an Egyptian symbol of eternal life, and I have a pentagram on my my quad for some dumbass witchcraft shit that I was reading about when I was like 16, like a little emo loser kid. And so I put these 2 tattoos on my body. They don't have any real significance. There's this kind of religious experience. But they ask you, like they grill you about them, because what they're looking for are any type of marks that are in any way, shape, or form related to what they call a security threat group. A security threat group is any kind of criminal organization, gang, affiliation, anything. If you have marks on your body that are gang tattoos, that are like white supremacy tattoos, that have racial slurs on them, it could be something as simple as a rebel flag could get you in trouble. Basically any type of marking on your body that could possibly indicate that you are either A, a member of a gang, or B, have some type of racial or hatred in your heart, or anything like that at all, then you can be classified as a security threat group. And if that happens, then you automatically cannot go to camp. So even if you caught a very low-level offense, and let's say you were on the street and when you were 20 years old, you thought like Nazism was cool and you got a Swazi tatted on you, or you got something hateful or offensive, could be something like fuck the police. There's a number of things, and it's basically arbitrary. It's up for them to decide. So they're grilling me like, what's an Ankh? What does that mean? I'm like, it's a religious symbol. And they're like, what religion are you? I'm like, I'm an atheist. But, you know, and so they grill you to see what the fuck it is. They, obviously mine were nothing. I don't know if they have like a database they look the shit up in. But I was good. Some of the guys were being classified as security threat groups, and that can affect what prison you go to. So be very careful when you get tattoos on the street, man, because you never know when you might get in trouble and end up in a facility like that, and it could massively affect the time you spend inside and how you get treated. You know, there's a lot of guys running around the street that are into like white supremacy movements, and there are certain tattoos that you can get if you're affiliated with one of these groups that when you get to prison, they take that shit very seriously. And I'm not getting into all of it in the purview of this video, but I have heard stories about people's tattoos being cut off of them because they didn't earn them. So be very, very careful what you tattoo on your body if you're a free man, because it could come back to haunt you later. So at this point, after they do all, they take your picture, your fingerprints again, and then they start issuing your Department of Corrections clothing, which is in this case like a couple of pairs of brown like corduroy pants. You get these state issued terrible fucking shoes with Velcro straps. You feel like the fucking nerd from 3rd grade. So you got like Velcro strap shoes, most uncomfortable shoes you've ever worn in your life. All of this stuff I think is made by inmates. And it's cold up there, so they give you this corduroy jacket that's brown and some like red long sleeve shirts. I forget what they're made out of. It's kind of a dense material. And then you get some like white t-shirts and some underwear. And so that's called your duck bag. And so you get a little bit of limited clothing. And then they give you in your duck bag your starter cosmetics. So you get like a toothbrush, toothpaste, It's weird. I think they put like some Advil in there, some Tylenol in there. There's like some assorted like things in this brown paper sack to like get you started, and then you are now what is considered a duck for whatever reason. So you go through this classifications process, and then eventually you will be assigned to an intake unit. So in Shelton, the intake units are what they call the lower R's. That's R's, R1, 2, or 3. And these are maximum security jail cells, jail blocks, because you are being housed with everyone. It hasn't been determined what your classification status is yet. And so when I was there were two rival gangs that basically were running the prison in Shelton. Those gangs were the Sureños and the Norteños. This was a Hispanic California gang, and I don't know their territories and all their shit, but they kept I was in R3 with the Sureños. So they had the Norteños, I think I'm saying that right, the Norteños in R1 and the Sureños in R3, because they have to be separated from each other because they hate each other. And they have standing orders that if you see a rival gang member, you are required to fight on contact. And you fight until this dude is dead or till they separate you. So going to prison as a member of a gang is no fucking joke. And so I'm in this wing that is like 80% Sureños. So you get assigned to an R unit. In my case, I got R3. And this is when the first butt clenching thing of the whole thing is scary. But now you're going actually to your cell in the big house. And so they take you into this cell block, and you've got your duck bag, and this door, mechanical bar door opens, and you start walking down what's called the tier. Basically on the left side of you is a bunch of windows that reach all the way up. It's a two-story high building, and there's cell blocks on the bottom, and then there's cell blocks on the top. And when you walk in there, it's like everything you've seen in Shawshank Redemption or any kind of prison movie where the guys are all in the bars. And so you start walking, and you're just trying to look straight ahead, and every one of these dudes is on the bars, and they're screaming all kinds of shit at you. Boy, you sure got a purty mouth. That's one of the ones they like to say. I'm gonna fuck you tonight. And they say anything they can to try to scare you, antagonize you. If you look in their direction, they get triggered. They start threatening you. It is one of the most terrifying experiences because, I mean, these are some scary looking fucking dudes. Straight bangers, covered in tattoos, guys that have been rap sheets, it's some of the scariest fucking people I've ever seen in my life. And you're getting ready to get celled up with one of these guys. So you walk until the guard tells you to stop, and you face forward, and then the fucking bars open, and then you go into the cell that you've been assigned, where you can fucking pretty much bet you're going to get paper checked. And I talked about that in one of my previous videos. What that means is they're going to ask you, they're not supposed to, this is illegal, can get you in trouble, but it happens. Your new cellmate is going to want to find out why you're in his cell. And so you have paperwork that indicates this, that you carry on you damn sure better have. And so the cell that I got, the cellie, that's a term for your cellmate, your cellie. I got lucky out the gate, and the unit, the cell they put me in, this guy spoke like 4 words of English. He was not a gangbanger. He was an illegal alien. He had crossed the border legally. Apparently, he was on his 4th time here, and he was boosting cars. So he got arrested for stealing cars, and he was doing his time. And then when his time was up, ICE, which is immigration something, I don't remember what it stands for, was going to come and transfer him. They were going to deport him. He was in my cell for a few days. I spoke just enough Spanish to kind of figure out what was going on, but I was assigned to a top bunk, and in these prison cells, we're talking about, like, again, like straight out of the movies, these are teeny tiny little cells, 6 by 8. They've got 2 bunks on the wall, and then they've got a toilet at the end, and then there's this tiny, there's no desk, it's just the, and so when I'm on the top bunk, and I was not a big guy, I was maybe 150 at this point, and 145 maybe. When you're laying on that top bunk, the ceiling is like, I mean, 8 inches maybe. Like you can't even, I don't think you can even sit all the way up. Maybe you could, maybe there was enough room to sit up. It felt like it was on top of you. There was probably room to sit up. So, but it was very, very claustrophobic. In this unit, you are locked in your cell for 23 hours a day. You come out only for 3 meals, and occasionally you would get out for 1 hour of yard, although that depended on a bunch of factors, the weather outside, how much noise there was made in the unit, if there was any fights, and it was like 8 days out of 10, they came up with some bullshit excuse to take our yard away from us. So for the first, probably 4 days, like you're just trapped in this cell. I didn't even have a book. 23 hours a day, trapped in a cell with a guy who speaks 4 words of English. You are just laying there staring at the ceiling. It's the first time in my life I thought I was going to go completely insane. Like, it was so much worse than county. I couldn't believe it. I think that I'm getting ready to run out of camera space and my dinner's ready, so I'm gonna take a break right here and then I'll come back. Okay, so I'm back after I had to take a break for dinner. I think I fucked up my hair getting ready for the gym because it's always so stylish, So where I left you was prison sucks in the intake unit, and I was in a very, very claustrophobic cell, locked in there for 23 hours a day. The first evening, however, was the first highlight of the prison experience, which was prison food. Holy fuck. The prison food is orders of magnitude better than anything you were eating in county. It is actually insane how much food you get in prison, especially in the work camp. But even in the classification unit that I was in, already the prison dining experience was substantially better. However, one of the interesting things to kind of mention is it was eye-opening experience. My first day, we just got through with classifications. I got put into the cell that I've been explaining, and then they opened the doors for us all to go to chow. They call it chow. And so you go into, it's kind of like being in high school. You go through like a cafeteria line with your little tray, and there's prisoners that work in the cafeteria, and they're doling out the food. Sometimes there's choices, generally there's not. This particular day was spaghetti and I think a big ass piece of bread. I don't remember what else was on the tray. And there was this big ass white dude, skinhead, like big dude. And he was working in the kitchen, and he was scooping out fucking ladles full of spaghetti, and this guy that came on the chain bus with me apparently knew him from the streets. And he sees him and he's like, "Hey man, what's going on, man? What happened? What are you doing? What happened to you?" And dude, I'll never forget, the guy goes, "Man, I just caught life." And he's like, "For real?" And I don't remember the next exchange. I just remember the guy behind the guy that was working in the cafeteria go, "Man, I really wish I ain't shot that dude." I was just like, oh my God. Like, I'm standing here looking at this guy who just caught life in prison for murder. I guess he was involved in some kind of a shooting. I don't know if it was a drive-by or what. And standing there listening to him talk to somebody that he knew from the streets and saying, like, God damn, man, like, I wish I hadn't done that stupid shit that I did. Just fucking grabs you, man. Because, you know, like, I had already found out the hard way, like, how quickly you can go from just living what you think is normal life. And next thing you know, like in my case, I was facing 12 years, got 2. This guy was never going to see the light of day. He was never going to be a free man again. And it was just so surreal to listen to. So we go back to the fucking unit, or we go back to the lower R unit, and I'm laying in my bunk, and I don't remember, I think they were playing chess. So they would make little chess boards out of just paper. So they would draw, like they would make the pieces, and they would tear out the little pieces, and they would make a chessboard, and the chessboard was numbered, and so they would be playing chess on the tier. And so what I did was I made my own chessboard so that I could follow along with the games. And so they would be, you know, yelling out their moves, like queen to bishop 2 or whatever the fucking moves are. I can't remember now. And so if you sat there and you had your own board, you could follow along with the game. And so, like, I would be, you know, while the person was waiting to make their move, I would be thinking about what I would do. I actually really enjoy chess. I'm pretty good at it. And so it was just something that I was doing to pass the time. There's a lot of yelling and screaming. It's real loud in there. And like I said, the entire cell block was probably 80% Sureños. Then at about 10 o'clock at night, they shut the fucking lights off. And one of the most chilling things I have ever heard in my life happened next. They turned the lights off, and the head Sureño, like the shot caller, yelled out something like, "Silence!" And everybody shut the fuck up. And he said, "It's now time to respect our neighbors. No more talking on the tier." He basically handed out an order to all of the other fucking Sureños that it's the lights out. It's time to shut the fuck up and go to bed. And then when he got through saying that, he said something, it was something like, "Sureños, pray." And in fucking unison on that tier, they said the Lord's Prayer. All these fucking tattooed, covered fucking savages and bangers and murderers and thieves and drug dealers and people that have all kinds of shit. And here they are, all fucking filed under the command of this one guy. His name was Joker. And he fucking silenced that tier with one fucking word. And they prayed in unison. And then it was quiet on the fucking tier. And so you're laying there, and it's night number 1 in prison, and there's total silence. And then all of a sudden, like, you would hear sniffling. You know, some new guy who, you know, like me, somebody else who just caught time, you know, maybe a little bit, maybe a lot, maybe whatever, just like the emotion of the fucking day overwhelmed them. Now they're laying in the bunk for their first time, and they're seeing the inside of a prison. They're seeing what their life is getting ready to look like. And so you'd hear a little bit of like soft crying, and then the worst fucking thing I have ever heard in my life after that, because it took me a while to go to sleep. And so I was laying there staring at the fucking ceiling, and then I hear this strange noise that starts out real quiet, and then it gets a little bit louder and a little bit louder, and you could tell it was 2 dudes fucking. And oh my God, bro, like, I'm not trying to hate on anybody. Like, if that's your persuasion, I'm not homophobic at all. Like, you do what you do. But man, for a heterosexual guy who's scared shitless, who's trying, like, I didn't cry. You know, like, I held my shit together. Like, you know, I stayed strong. I was scared to death. And then you hear that happening, and you don't know whether it's consensual or not. Like, you assume it's consensual because there's not, like, you know, screaming bloody murder. And it was just like, it was so much reality all at once. Like, in the span of 5 hours, you know, I met somebody who just caught life in prison for murder. And, you know, obviously it's this horrible thing. I'm sure he deserves his punishment. I don't know who his victim was or why. But you see from the other side the gravity of what he's done, and it's hit him. And, you know, it was clear that he was like a big softie. He was like a big teddy bear. It was shocking to me that he had committed murder. Like, you think of murderers being these hardened criminals, and this guy was just like a big goofy teddy bear. But he was a gangbanger, and he got an order, and he followed it, and he killed somebody, and he got caught, and he is still probably at Walla Walla or the Bay or fucking, I forget the other maximum security prison up there, Monroe maybe, I can't remember, and he's never getting out. And so you've kind of put yourself in his shoes for a moment, and then you've laid here and you've listened to these animals just crazy loud on the tier and all the shit that's going on, and the fear of, you know, what's going to happen to you. Luckily, I had this cellie. I felt totally safe in my cell. Like, I wasn't worried about him. And then, you know, the shot caller and the prayer, the praying, and then the fucking sex, and it's just like, welcome to the big house, man. And it is, again, it's another one of those experiences that will just irrevocably changes you. Like, I will never get that sound out of my head, man. I will never be able to get some of the things I heard and saw in that place out of my head. The feeling of those walls caving in, I mean, just like, you should try one day to just go, like, lay in your bathroom with nothing, without even a book. Just lay in your bathroom for fucking 24 hours. Just see how hard that is. Like, it's insane. Like, you'll be going fucking ape shit crazy inside of a fucking hour. It's just a whole lot to come crashing down on you at once. And that was day one of prison in Shelton Correctional Center. So there you have it. Like I said, I'm pretty fucking tired today, so I don't know that I'm you know, translating this as well as usual, but I wanted to get something up because I know people have been following this series. And so tomorrow I'll come back with, or later tonight, with some more details of the next step of the game and what it was like living in the lower, what they call the lower R units, and my interactions with some of the gangbangers and the classes that you have to go through and the fights that I saw, and lots of shit, man. Lots of crazy shit left to come. Showering, that's another exciting fucking experience. A lot of shit to come, so stay tuned, and I'll be back with, I think part 2. I guess this is part 2. I'll be back with part 3 of what it's like to go to prison. So as always, thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next one.